How's it going, everybody? My name is McKeever Edward Conwell II, and welcome to the 10th edition of the Mac Startup Vlog. I also here with my great co-host.
Hey everyone, it's Kate, Alegado. We're on our 10th one? That's crazy.
Yeah, well, this is number 9 with me and you.
Oh, and then you had one with Christine from Diversitech. But
Yes,
still, though, you're in the double digits.
we're in the double digits. This is
Get
big,
out.
big deal.
Good
Um,
stuff.
Good stuff.
You
So,
eat 10 cupcakes. That'd be
10
good.
cupcakes?
Yeah.
No, I need to stay away from the cupcakes right now. So this week's edition of the Startup Vlog, we will be talking about how to pick the right accelerator for your company and then how to get in. It's like the magic sauce everybody wants to know about, like how do I get into an accelerator? And I
And
guess
why? Why
why
people get into accelerators?
why people get accelerators and what an accelerator is.
I really don't even know what an accelerator is, actually.
You don't
Because
know what an accelerator is?
I know that startups go into it and then they get funding and mentorship, but I really don't know the details of it.
Gotcha. So it
Like,
sounds like
yeah.
before we really get started, we should dive into a little bit about what an accelerator is, why you will look to get into one, and then how you find the right one for your company and how you actually get in. Before we get started, a little background. I myself, my first company, Given.2, was happened to be fortunate enough to participate in two accelerators. One
Two.
in one in Baltimore, Maryland. It was the first one in the state of Maryland. A smaller accelerator by the name Accelerate Baltimore. And our second one was with the New Me Accelerator, which is a larger, more well-known accelerator in San Francisco.
Get that. You're like east to like coast to coast.
Yeah, it was the whole purpose. You typically don't see people go through two accelerators, but we wanted to go through the experience of being on the East Coast and then going to the West Coast. We were a Baltimore-based company, so we wanted to get the San Francisco exposure. It's a great time. So, yeah, it was very prosperous time. So I guess to get started, let's talk about what an accelerator actually is. So typically, when you hear about accelerators, they're programs that last anywhere from 3 months to a year to 6 months, where you're given mentorship, uh, access to a network, and in some cases, capital. And the way they pretty much work is for joining this program, it's a very intense 3 to 6 month time period where all you're focused on is just your business and you're surrounded with, the network of the people who are running the accelerator, which is usually first class mentors, people who have been in the field, people who have done successful companies, investors, people who have invested successfully and unsuccessfully, who can share all their knowledge and give you all the best advice in the world, as well as some capital, typically to live for the period of time you're there. So in a lot of cases, accelerators tend to be outside of your current location. So like I said, we're based in Baltimore, but we went to one in San Francisco. There are big time accelerators all up and down the East Coast, the West Coast, the Midwest. There are accelerators in Chicago, Ohio, Boston, New York. And while you're there, you got to be able to live, survive. Typically companies typically aren't at the revenue stage when they go to most accelerators. So, 25K to 50K is to keep you going and also put a little bit of money into your company. So you figure for 25K in 3 months, you could probably find you and your team a nice apartment to stay at, be able to buy enough food to live off of, and then maybe have, a couple thousand left over to do some contracted work out, maybe get a new design for your app or your website, get some marketing or PR work done. And so that's kind of how that works. And then the big combination at the end of most accelerators is what they call demo day, where everybody gets to demo their products or pitch their products to a room, typically a room full of investors, to show them all the work that you've done the last 3 months and to show them where your company currently is. And hopefully at the end of the accelerator, your company is what we would like to call fundable. We'll talk about that in another vlog, what it means to be fundable or to have a fundable startup. So that's pretty much what an accelerator is. It literally does that, accelerates the growth and maturation of your company. But you also need to understand, when they talk about accelerators and accelerating the maturation and growth of your company can accelerate in either direction. That means you can accelerate your growth and success or accelerate your failure. Because if you're doing the wrong thing or if your company's positioned the wrong way, you'll find out really quickly.
You said that the accelerator that you went through was 3 months. Is that the usual time frame for these accelerators?
Typically, most of the typical timeline for most of the accelerators out here is about 3 months. So it's 3 months of intense work and mentorship.
Hmm. How'd you find out about these accelerators? I mean, I guess there's so many of them.
So when I got started, really, I had a good friend of mine. You gotta remember, when I got started, I didn't know what a startup was. I was still new to
Oh
the
yeah.
culture.
Hmm.
So I had a friend of mine tell me about this project in West Coast called Y Combinator, where they
Hmm.
accept companies for a couple of months, and then when you come out, you have a good chance to get funding. And so I joined Y Combinator's website, Hacker News. And Hacker News is just a big startup and technology community where they kind of source through people and they talk about it. And so after finding out about Y Combinator and applying, I found out there were a bunch of other programs similar to it. And so we and my team started to research them and look into them, and we found that there were accelerators all over the place. At the time we got started, there weren't as many as there are today. You're starting to see them more and more and more. That's the issue. There's some problems I personally see with the accelerator model, but we can talk about that in another video.
Hmm.
But that's kind of how we got started. Somebody told me about Y Combinator, and I just started doing my research. And then also, when you read through your tech crunches and your venture beats, you see stuff like Y Combinator back or 500 startup back companies. And so it makes you kind of want to look into that and and learn a little bit. So I encourage everybody who's interested in being part of a program like them, like an accelerator, which can be greatly helpful for your company. Do your research. Really look into them.
So when you find out these accelerators, what would be like the first step that you did after just searching for them?
I would say once you get a grasp of what accelerators are out there, start to peg down which ones you want to go to. So accelerators will have a list of their mentors and a list of their portfolio of companies that have gone through. You're probably going to want to look for an accelerator that has experience in your business, who has experience doing whatever it is your vertical is. So if you're an e-commerce platform, you're probably going to want to go to an accelerator that's done work with other e-commerce teams. If you're doing wearable technology, you're probably going to want to go to an accelerator that has a mentor that has experience in wearable tech or who have investors who have invested in wearable tech. So to really look at the makeup of the accelerators. Also, there's this new trend now where they're starting to see the emergence of very specialized accelerators. So you're starting to see accelerators that specialize in wearable tech, or they only taking health tech or med tech companies, things like that. So if you're in one of those niches, definitely look into those accelerators, and also understand the stage of your company and the different stages of accelerators, because not every accelerator is created equal. Um, some accelerators, their application process is less stringent than others. Y Combinator is the gold standard. So to get into a Y Combinator, you're probably going to need some traction already. You're going to have a lot of stuff already placed, built, things already moving. You're going to probably be a little bit more established to get into a Y Combinator or have some earth-shattering, world-breaking technology, as opposed to some of the other accelerators out there where you might just need to have a really good team and a really good idea in the beginning stages of a product to get into those programs. So understand the different levels of the programs and what they're looking for before you go in, um, and also understanding the key things it takes to get into an accelerator.
So I'm only going to say there's a bunch of people right now that are itching to just go on Google and search for these accelerators and start filling out the application. What would be like your big red flag for people to be aware of what like their position is in terms of, can they apply right now, or should they kind of wait a little, or they're fine? Kind of like, would you be able to give a few examples of different levels?
So different levels. So let's see. So let's say you're a solo entrepreneur. You have an idea for a great startup, but you're a solo entrepreneur. And let's say you don't have the technology background, so really you want to go to an accelerator, get some money, and hopefully
Hmm.
find yourself a co-founder. Accelerator is not right for you. You're not ready yet. I would say one of the key things to getting into an accelerator is having a good team. Most accelerators typically don't take single founders, just because in the 3 months that you're there, there's so much work to be done. Not just one person can do all that work. It's just not how that works. It doesn't work out that well. Also, if you don't already have a tech co-founder, it's so hard sometimes to find a tech co-founder. You don't have your 3 months are to get your company from point A to point B, with point B hopefully being uh, a company is ready to be funded. You don't
Hmm.
have time to waste finding teammates. You don't have time to waste, adding the parts that you should already had to start up with. That's number one. Now, when we want to talk about different levels of accelerators, let's say you have a good team, but you just launched your product. You don't know if it's going to do well or not. You don't have any traction. Well, then one of the newer, maybe I don't want to say lower level, but one of the maybe not as well known or more localized accelerators, like the one we went to in Baltimore, be perfect for you.
Hmm.
You know, because also you got to think about in some cases when people get their first round of funding is what people like to call their friends and family round,
Yeah.
or people say friends, family, and other fools. Well, in some cases, people don't have access to that. You don't have people in your network of high net worth that can, give you some money to get you started. So some people look at accelerators that gap between getting seed funding
Hmm.
and getting yourself off the ground. So maybe you built the product, but you don't really have any funding to kind of start driving yourself forward. Well, an
Hmm.
accelerator that offers 25K or 50K that might not be as big nationally, but it's more of a local
Yeah.
accelerator. That funding right there is perfect to help you. That's perfect to get you started and help you start to grow and see where your company's positioned, as well as getting more well known in your local tech community, your local tech scenes, and also understanding what you're going to an accelerator for. Are you going to an accelerator for exposure? To understand, where does that accelerator rank nationally? Are you going to an accelerator for the level of mentorship? Well, then start to look into the mentors that they offer and see if those are the right mentors for you. Are you going to the accelerator just for the funding? Well, then, start to look for the accelerators that offer the most kind of funding. And maybe, see the local ones that offer the most funding. Those will probably be a little bit easier for you to get into. So understanding why you're going to accelerator, what you want to get out of it, it's also really important, and be ready to have a game plan day one.
So solo entrepreneurs are not ready because they don't have a team. If you do
Yes,
have a team and you're missing a few team members or critical team members, then you're still not ready.
correct.
And that if you're just launching and completely new and have very little traction, is to go for local accelerators. But if you have all of that traction, a solid team, you should be good to go for any accelerators.
You're good to go to start applying to any accelerators. Still not guaranteed you're going to get in. And also be mindful that accelerator portfolios, some accelerators don't like bringing on teams that have competing products with teams that have already gone through.
Okay.
So it's just like when you look at an investment portfolio, investors typically don't invest in competing products.
Hmm.
Um, some accelerators take the same philosophy. So also having understanding of who's gone through and is your product a competing product, and and, and understanding if that accelerator is interested in investing into and putting time and effort into a company that's a competing product. That's really important. That's an important thing to note.
Good. I think I got that portion. So what about the application process?
So the application process. So just like meeting mentors, just like
Hmm.
meeting investors, it's a lot about your network and relationships. Same
Hmm.
thing with getting into accelerators. Both accelerators that my team got into, it's my personal belief that we got into them based on the relationships that we had. So when we got into the accelerator here in Baltimore, we had just made a lot of noise in the local tech scene. We had a lot of local press at the time, and we were the last entry that they accepted. And somehow we became finalists and ended up getting into the first class of their accelerator. Conversely, the accelerator knew me in San Francisco. We met one of the co-founders of the accelerator at an event. Actually, it was at a viewing party. They had a viewing party because there was a CNN special on it, and we met one of the co-founders there. We met him, stayed in contact, started a relationship. Then they would routinely come to DC to do little meetups.
Mhm.
And every time they came to town for a meetup or to do office hours, we would go. And every time we would go, they would remember us. They would see the growth of our company. They would see how we're changing. They see how we're doing better. We would correspond through email. So by the time we did apply, we already established a relationship with them. They knew us. So it made it easier for them to choose, the team they wanted for us to come in.
Mhm.
Um, so I know that to be a fact, that those relationships help. And so how do you build that for an accelerator? Well, once you peg down what kind of accelerator you want to go to, start to look through the list of former founders, of former teams that have gone through and former founders, and start to reach out to them. Reach out to them for advice, ask them about the accelerator. And just like how investors say they like to look for people in their network to vouch for you, to bring you to them, well, if you meet a former founder of an accelerator who you've established a rapport with, who you started to, go to for advice, they'll be the ones to tell you, like, hey, I think you might want to look into this accelerator. Maybe they'll do an intro, like, hey, I'll be more than happy to do an intro for you, or do a referral for you. Have you, go through. Cause like the new me accelerator I went to in San Francisco, they work a lot on referrals. If you get to know me and I really believe in your product, believe in your team, think you're the right fit, and think that you're poised to really get the most out of your time in San Francisco,
Mhm.
I'd be more than happy to introduce you to the founder out there and, vouch for you. And so you can see that in a lot of other accelerators. As well as if those accelerators are going to have events, go to those events. They're there for a reason. They're out there to try and meet people and source talent. And if you have a good product they're interested in you, they'll let you know. My current company that I have right now, we just applied to an accelerator. And the reason we applied to that accelerator is because we did a demo at an event, and one of the managing directors of that accelerator walked up to me afterwards and said, hey, have you thought about our accelerator? I think you should apply. And it's a big name accelerator. It's a big deal accelerator. And it caught me off guard. I wasn't expecting it. But then after that, I stayed in contact with them. I let them know how my company was doing, how we were progressing. I let them know that I was going to apply. I appreciate his encouragement. And while that's not going to guarantee you to get in, it helps. Those kind of things definitely help. The next thing I would say about applying to accelerators is learn how to hack the application. So when you think about the application getting accelerated, think about it like a resume. How
Hmm.
long do they say most HR representatives read a resume or look at a resume for?
One page.
One page, about
Mhm.
60 seconds. So you figure if somebody's going to look at your resume for 60 seconds, an accelerator application is way longer than that. And depending on how big of an accelerator is and how many applications they get, they're not going to spend a whole lot of time going through all the applications.
Mhm.
Um, I've had people who have sourced companies for other accelerators tell me exactly kind of things they look for. One person told me, he's like, when I look through your application, I'm looking to throw it away as fast as possible because I have a bunch of applications to go through. So I go to look. So he said he goes to look for things that are going to disqualify you right away. He's like, are you over the age of 35? Boom, you're gone. Do you have a tech? If you don't have a tech co-founder,
Seriously?
yeah, he was honest. He's like, if you don't have a tech co-founder, boom, you're gone.
Wait, the age of 35? Seriously?
30. If you're, I would probably say 40. He said 35. Like that's just how he felt. Like
Wow.
so he's like, if you're over the age of 35, your application's gone. If you don't have a tech co-founder, boom, your application's gone. If you don't have a product done, boom, your application's gone. He looks at the few key spots automatically, the same way as an HR person or a recruiter is going to look at your resume and look to see like, do you have the education requirements? Do you have the skill requirements? And they go down the initial list. Now, once they get past that initial list, then they start to read some of your entries. Well, you got to think about your earliest entries on the application. That's probably going to be the ones that are going to be read the most, or most likely read.
Mm-hmm.
That's your opportunity where, yes, you want to answer the answer the question in the application, but you might throw in, like, if you have a demo of your product, you might want to throw in a link to the demo of your product right there. So a great example was we applied for an accelerator with our first company that we actually didn't accept to go to. We decided to go to somewhere else. But in the application, in the first question, I actually put a link to a demo code for what our product did.
Mm-hmm.
So instead of you having to read the whole application, you just go straight through, and the first thing you got to do was is test out how our application worked. And when I talked to him, the guy who evaluated our application told me that that's what actually got us in. He's like, when I was looking at your application, the very first thing I saw was the demo. He's like, I did that, and I thought this was really cool. And then once I saw you had a full team, he was like, yeah, you guys were a no-brainer. You know, so there are kind of ways you can kind of hack the application, and that goes for a lot of things in the tech world. Um, and this is just talking about applications in general.
Mm-hmm.
At one point, VentureBeat every now and then has office hours in San Francisco, and they just put an application up on their website, on VentureBeat. So a ton of people are going to apply. When I applied and actually got to go there for office hours, I did the exact same thing in the first question. I didn't even answer the first question. I just put a demo. I gave them the link to the demo of the product. And that got me to be one of 2 people to get office hours at VentureBeat because I got straight to the point. They're trying
Yeah.
to their whole point is they're trying to get rid of applications as fast as possible because they don't have time to read through everybody. So they're looking for ways to disqualify you right away. And to that point, it doesn't hurt to reach out to people at that accelerator and ask them, like, hey, what do you look for in an application? What are the most important parts to you? For some accelerators, it might be important that you answer every question. Some of the local smaller accelerators, they have time. They don't have as many applications, so they might read through every single thing and scrutinize it. So it's also worth your while to reach out to the people of those accelerators to ask them, like, hey, what are you looking for? Is the video really important? Is the demo of my product really important? Is the traction I have really important? Is the team really? What things do you look for?
Mm-hmm.
You can also find articles and probably interviews from these accelerators and managing directors of accelerators that'll tell you, well, they mention the things that they look for and things that are important to them.
That's pretty much it until how long does it usually take for you to get a response?
Depends on when you apply. Most applications are open from anywhere from 2 to 3 months. At the end, once the application process is closed, in about 3 to 4 weeks before you find out if you've gotten in or if you're a finalist. And once you're a finalist, they usually bring you for face-to-face interviews. So it's a fairly quick process.
But the application just needs to look really just put together
Yeah, application.
and like you said, bottom light up front kind of deal.
Yes,
Oh, well, that doesn't seem so hard.
it's not
Maybe
that hard.
not.
It's pretty practical. It's not too hard. Establish those relationships, get to know the people in the program, because that goes a long way. That helps a lot. Understand what they're looking for in the application, and if you got something really unique or really special you can throw at them early in your application, throw that in there. Go ahead and let them see. The sooner the better, because you don't want to have your big wow factor on the 4th page of the application. If you got something really big and wow you can throw at them, then you might want to throw that at them first. And here's a good example, right? So let's say the first question is, what problem are you solving? And so you might go through of, my company is solving the problem of boredom with our new game, which has a engagement rate of 100% over a period of 8 hours, and we've grown month over month by 500,000 users, something crazy like that. But that had nothing to do with the question. But those numbers are going to, if you threw some numbers out there like that, anybody's going to look at that and just be like, wow, okay, now I really need to read this whole application. You hooked me. It's
Yeah.
all about the hook. It's all about the hook. Similar to like when you're doing the cold calls and cold emails, putting everything in your first subject line. You want to hook people
Hmm.
in. Applications are the same way.
Okay, now the question just popped in my head. So when it comes to
Okay.
application, let's just
Uh-huh.
say I apply this time around, but I get rejected. Can I
Okay.
reapply?
You can apply as many times as you like. Um, but when you reapply, make sure your
Hmm.
company is further along the next time than was the first time. Don't apply and have the exact same answers, the exact same numbers, and be in the exact same place as you did the first time. But that's not going to help you.
So I want significant growth.
Not significant growth, but you want growth.
Okay.
They want to see that you're moving forward.
Hmm. I think that's it. Yeah. Seems to be really straightforward about it. I mean, it's like applying for a job, but you have to just make sure you have a team.
Yeah,
Yeah.
team, having a team can be really important, and you want to look at it as like, yes, having a team is really important because in those 3 months, you're
Hmm.
so focused on building your company during that period of time, but also understanding that a lot of accelerators look at the application process similar to investors. So a lot of investors aren't going to invest in entrepreneurs that don't have, especially early stage or first time entrepreneurs who
Hmm.
don't have a good team. That's one of the things they look for. It's how good
Oh.
of a team you have. So the accelerator wants to make sure you're in the best position possible to achieve your goal. In a lot of cases, your goal leaving accelerator is to get funding. So
Oh, you said team. I don't mean to cut you off, but before I literally forget about this.
okay,
So, team members, you say you have to make sure you have a solid team. What about the experiences of the people on your team? Does that affect the application process?
it definitely affects the application process. The more experienced your team members are, the better. But if you don't have the experience, but you have a good team and you already have something built that they can see,
Hmm.
well, that can compensate in a lot of cases. Like if you have a first time, like if you have a software engineer on your team who maybe only has 3 or 4 years of actual experience,
Hmm.
but they've already built your app and it's in the app store, you have users. Well, that compensates. Him building the app for you is experience they can see. They can see it, they can feel it, they can touch it. That that goes well as opposed to saying if you're starting a company and you have a former iOS developer from Angry Birds. That's impressive.
That's
But
nice.
so they can believe that. But if you have somebody on your team's already built the app for your company, well then that works just as well too. So experience helps, but don't let that hold you back too much.
But would it be best to at least have one fairly experienced person on the team?
I would say it would, but me and my team, we didn't have any experienced people on our team. We had
That's a
experience.
lot. You guys already had a product built.
We had the product built, right? But we didn't have experience as entrepreneurs. We didn't have experience with startups. We had
Oh.
experience as software engineers in a completely different industry.
Oh, okay.
So having a product built, that's what I say, having a product built, having something out there in the market kind of helps get over the hump of some of that experience stuff.
Hmm. Cool. Thanks.
No problem. I think that's it for today. If you have any questions or want to know anything more about how to pick the right accelerator or how to get into accelerator, please feel free to tweet us or send us emails. Our links and information will be in the description below. Um, and we'll probably follow this up with future videos on what to do once you've been accepted into accelerator or how to handle it once you've been rejected. I think those are good topics.
I like those.
Sounds good. We'll work on that one. Have a good day, everybody.
Bye.